Hello Booktubians. Today I'm going to be talking about Book 2 of Cradle, Soulsmith by Will White. It is going to be a spoiler-filled review, so if you haven't read the book, I would not recommend watching this video. So, I really like this book. I think the beginning, it starts off with a bang. And it is just balls to the walls, breakneck action. They're fighting to survive. They're nearly starving. They're nearly getting, dying of thirst. They're nearly getting ambushed every 2 seconds by some otherworldly creature or some gold bandits. So that's the other thing, gold bandits. This book introduces the fact that Yeren is not top dog. She may have been top dog in the Sacred Valley, which was very fun to read, but in this, she's facing 3 of her own rank, and it is a brutal fight. I mean, Linden advances to copper, but you realize how little that actually matters, because it's like, again, it's like a 5-year-old turning 6. Like, you didn't do anything special, you just aged a year, and you're still weak as hell, because everyone else in the room is an adult. And when you realize that Yeren is actually the weakest, well, she's the strongest out of most low golds, and she could probably hold her own against a high gold, but she will likely lose if even just the slightest thing goes against her way. She's a very, very competent low gold, but this is a world where most people that are worth anything at all are low gold, and that is a very, very scary concept, because, and I think the author does really well of putting Linden in his place, and for that matter, Yeren as well. So you can very easily get, I guess, plot armor heavy in this book, like in a book like this, and I am happy to say that Will White does not. At least not to me. I did not feel like there was plot armor, and I think there's an important distinction to be made. I understand that Linden and Yeren are the main characters, so obviously from a meta perspective, I understand as a reader that they're not gonna die. Like, I know that. I'm not gonna be like, oh my god, they made it out, holy crap. No, I get it. But I feel like a good writer, and in a good story like this, helps you forget that fact and still worry. Not maybe of death, but of something worse, some loss, right? Like, that's what makes a story compelling, when a danger is presented and then overcome. The only reason I'm saying this is because I don't want to make it seem like I'm blissfully unaware that Linden is not going to die in book 2, and he doesn't die in book 2. Look at that. But I think the author does a great job of making Linden feel like he's going to die every second. So that's why I say, like, it's not plot armor for me, because he gets out with ways that I understand and it makes sense. And is he in way over his head? Yes. Is he dealing with essentially tigers in a cage, and he has locked himself inside that cage? Yes. And am I excited to see how he eventually grows from copper to iron, which he does, into jade? Yes, very much. And I think every time he wins anything, it's even if it's a small win, even if it's a big win, and especially when it's a big win, it feels so earned. And I made, for my book 1 spoiler review, I compared it to the tutorial of a video game. I compare this to, like, a baby's first dungeon, because it's literally a dungeon. Like, it's these massive factions over this ruin, and more and more I read this, more I realize that Will White probably just is a gamer that wanted to make a story that is a video game, and he is doing a great job at it, and I want to look into it, but also part of me kind of enjoys going in somewhat blind. Like, I talked to a friend about this, and he also brought up the fact that it's like a video game setup almost, and so it is obviously intentional to me. Like, there's no way he set up the premise of most, like, early dungeons in this book, but it was such a joy to read, and it's even more of a joy when I think back, because, as I said, this is a series that I keep thinking about. When I think back, and I'm like, wow, that is just like, he's farming XP. Like when Ethan locks him in the door and then says, go fight, he's farming XP, and it's funny to think about it as a video game in hindsight, but when you're reading it, it's like, oh my god, how is he going to get out of this? But now it's like, I'm gonna be honest, if I play like a game like World of Warcraft or like Star Wars: The Old Republic, and I'm going around killing stuff in a dungeon, I'm gonna be thinking like, this mission right here is like similar to Lyndon almost dying several times. I think in the game format, you just desensitize yourself that you're fighting monsters because that's the normal game. But then I'm like, oh my god, if this was real life, imagine going out to farm some weapon or some XP or get stronger, right? And you could literally die on the way. Some people do in a video game, but they respawn. But in this book, you can't respawn, so it's just, I don't know. It's very entertaining to read it like that. As for the world is getting a lot bigger. Obviously, they're in like the wilds, or they call it I believe the desolate wilds or something. But point is, it's an awful place. It's full of these monstrous creatures. A lot of them toxic and insectoid in nature. It is, of course, home. I assume it's home, or rather, point is the clan called the Sand Vipers are there, and I love that. They're in the bloopers. They make fun of the Sand Vipers, like, oh yeah, they're the Sand Vipers. Their entire existence is based around the venomous Sand Viper. They use Sand Viper venom. Their entire culture is based on Sand Viper. Their symbol is a Sand Viper. Blah 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 blah. It's funny. I thought it was a good humor. But the Sand Viper clan and the Jai clan and a lot of other like families and such are trying to get treasure inside of the city, and they're mining their way in. And this world, at least this area, is very much might is right. Right. The miners are other secret artists that have been bested in battle, captured, and collared, so they can't channel Nadra. So it's basically just a nullifier. Every magic system has to have some kind of collar mechanic that you can't use your powers anymore. It's kind of a trademark at this point of the genre. But basically, Lyndon has to now figure out a way to get the treasures of the city, survive any unwanted attention, and continue his path of power. All the while, Yaren more or less is trying to do the same thing. I like that Yaren and Lyndon, for the first time, in this book, actually deal with some tension of where their paths are going to lead them. I like their characters. I think it's a very simple arc, but I think it's so effective because it's a very, they're like teenagers, right? Like 16, 17 years old, and it's a very human thing to believe, and that's one thing that this book does well. Is even though these sacred artists are so might is right, and they have these godlike powers, a lot of the high and true golds and underlords, which is the new rank we find out about. That's even past gold itself. They're very human, and I think it's enjoyable to see how this might is right structure or society based on respect, honor, pride still maintains that human connection and balances it. I mean, a great example is Jai Long, who is by far one of my favorite characters that is introduced in this book. He is badass, he is intimidating, he is a villain, but he's not just like a mustache twirling villain. I almost felt like Whitehall in the last book was basically a mustache twirling villain, and but Jai Long in this is a very compelling character, and he in some ways was ostracized by his own community despite being super powerful. I love his backstory with the river monster or whatever, and then he consumes the remnant that isn't quite the Stellar Spear remnant, so he goes off in this little unorthodox branch of the Stellar Spear for his sister, and in the end they both were ostracized, and now they're here with the Sand Vipers hunting for treasure to regain their honor. I mean, it almost reminds me of Zuko in a way, but like not exactly, but it's a very compelling story, and it makes me actually enjoy his chapters. I was worried as we started getting more point of view shifts. Like I enjoyed the one with Whitehall, right? But they were mostly towards the end, and they weren't very long. I was worried that with how quickly we started getting other perspectives, like with Jai Long, that if he's not a good villain, then I'm just going to want to go back to Lyndon, and it's going to feel like annoying whenever it switches. I found myself actually excited for Jai Long chapters because his scene in the mines where he puts the collar on himself to duel against one of the miners, and if he wins, he gets to go, and if he loses, then he stays. And he stands up and he says, "All right, let's fight. Strongest wins. If I win, then you stay. If you win, you're free." And I'm like, he puts the collar on, and I'm like, okay, he's got guts, and then he wins in like one strike basically. And I think that's like the author trying to tell us as the readers, because that's what I got from it, is that you can be higher rank, like you could be a Jade facing an Iron, and the Iron can still win if he is actually just better at combat or better at being a secret artist. So rank can only get you so far. Obviously, if you're a Jade or a Gold and you're facing an Underlord, you're gonna get stat checked. Again, it's just like a video game. In a video game, you can take on the higher level mission if you're good enough, but you're likely gonna get stat checked. And that's why I really, again, another video game, it's just a video game in novel format, and I'm surprisingly enjoying it very much. So when Jialong wins, he, proves his point that he is better, and they just have to deal with that. But then Athen is introduced, and Athen is an Underlord, or later we find out. They don't know this for most of the story, and he's part of the Aurelius family, which I had a sneaking suspicion with how many times they mentioned Aurelius. They're coming, they're going to be here, and they're going to ruin all what we're doing here, right? They're so powerful, they have an Underlord on their side or whatever, or they have Underlords on their side. I don't remember if they have one or many. I didn't guess that Athen was Underlord. I just assumed that he might have been, he's also described as a little bit more snobby and kind of mightier than thou, like a nobleman basically. So, but that's fine. I thought it was very, very funny when he reveals himself, and then just everyone feels the weight of the world as they kneel before him, and he just goes, okay, so now that we have defeated the big boss, defeated the dungeon, had a little bit of infighting, we're gonna now split the loot. And that's basically what happens. It's like the need and greed rolls from World of Warcraft dungeons, right? So Jialong gets his ancestral spear. I forgot what Lyndon gets. Lyndon gets a few things himself. Everyone gets a little bit of treasure, right? But remember when I said I liked how, rank isn't like just a stat check. It's like if you could beat through sheer skill or luck. Well, it was very satisfying to see Lyndon, of all people, as a fully leveled up Iron, just backstab Crawl, I believe he was a high gold. And that was crazy. And I love how the way he became Iron with the poison, that scene was beautiful. Because I was reading the scene, and he's explaining how, he's taken 5 fangs to the wrist or whatever. He's just blackened up, leaking poison and blood, and just not looking very good. But he's adapting to it, right? His body's adapting to it. And then the next scene is a ritual where they're getting a 10-year-old or something of the Sand Viper. They're upgrading him to Iron, which is funny because he's 10 and Lyndon's 16. And they've given him 2. And I just think that's the author basically saying, hey, even though there's an age difference, taking on 5 venom bites is absolutely insane. It is stupid, to the point of where Athen's sitting there going, that might have been too much. and Erin's just looking at her friend just absolutely verging on death. And again, he's a very clever writer. So to wrap up, final thoughts on Soulsmith. I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. I liked it just about the same as book 1. I think, if anything, this book has continued the hype train for me. I'm excited to see what happens in Black Flame. And I think having the year, in a year, you're going to have this duel to the death is a great timeline. It's tense. It's how's he going to get out of this one? We've seen Lyndon get out of so many things through the back door, or through somebody helping him, through some kind of gotcha moment. But this is going to be a mano-a-mano 1v1 duel. There's no way to get out of that one. Unless, of course, Athen truly trains him, or maybe he finds some kind of exploit in the contract. Not that they actually had a contract. So I'm excited, is what I'm saying. And I think that's the best thing a book ending can do for the next book. And so I will let you know my thoughts on book 3 when I read it. And I'm excited to do so, because I think this series has a lot of potential. And already I feel like I can't stop thinking about the magic system. And I see this slowly, I'll give it a few more books to make that to make that opinion, but I feel like this is going to slowly start being one of my favorites. But hopefully, we'll see. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Happy reading!